Good evening. We're here to talk about Volker Krajewski, who is one of the new members in the Fairmont Athletic Hall of Fame. Volker was a golfer extraordinaire at Fairmont High School. Fairmont had a golf program that was consistently one of the powers in the state of Ohio, finishing in the top 10 16 times and in the top 4 times. That golf team won the state championship twice and finished second one time. And one of the key golfers, if not the most important golfer, was Volker. I'm here tonight joined by Roger Bowser, who was a classmate at Fairmont High School with Volker, and he's going to share some information about Volker and some interesting stories. So Roger.
Thanks, Bill. Not quite a classmate. I graduated a year behind Volker, but knew him. Knew him not well, because to put my name with the golfer's name, it would be sacrilege to the golfing world. But as you said, from 1950 to 1966, Fairmont had just an extended run of 16 top 10 finishes. 12 of those were in the top 4. And up until 1961, they never were able to win the championship. They came close on several times. They had a couple seconds, some thirds, and some fourths, but never made it. And Volker has an interesting story. He came from Germany. He came from Germany at the age of 10. And when I read that in some information that I had found about him, I thought, well, I wonder if his dad was maybe one of the German scientists who came over to the U.S. and was working at Wright Pat on some secret rocket kind of things. As it turned out, Volker's mom and dad were very interested in golf, and they were the clubhouse managers and custodians, caretakers at the NCR Country Club golf course. So Volker, from a very early age, at about age 10, really became acquainted with lots and lots of very good golfers, because NCR Country Club was home to a lot of good golfers.
Right.
And so he learned the ropes. And by the time he was 15, he was playing well enough that he won the NCR Junior Championship. And that was just before his sophomore year. And he came to Fairmont High School, joined the varsity team, and the top 4 golfers on that team were 3 sophomores and a junior. The junior was Bob Logan, who is one of our Hall of Fame members.
Right. They
got together with Coach Rayburn at the beginning of the season, and they were setting some goals. And after they had set their goals, Volker asked this question. He said, "Coach, who's going to present the state championship trophy to the student body when we win it?" And as it turned out, Volker became the low scorer in that state championship team, and he did get to present the state championship trophy to the student body.
Wow.
And the fact that Dave Rayburn was his coach, Dave Rayburn was just an amazing man. He was about 95% blind as a result of his diabetes, still taught a full schedule of biology, and people said that about Dave, he could tell where the golf ball went just from the sound of the way it hit the face of the club. He could tell you how far it went and what direction it went. He was amazing. So I think Volker fell into some excellent coaching from Coach Rayburn. That was the 1961 season. In that same season, at the end of the regular season, and that team, I'm trying to remember now, they finished 12-2, so they were a very, very fine team. And they won the Miami Valley League, they won the district championship, and after they'd won the district championship, Coach Rayburn said, we're going to go down to Community, which was their home course, and we're going to have a playoff. Everybody's going to have a chance to play in the state tournament, and we're going to see who the top 4 are. So they played, and Volker finished 5th. And it looked as if he was not going to make it to the state championship finals. But Mike Manchester, who is a prominent dentist in this area, Fairmont graduate, was a year ahead of Volker, finished in that 4th spot, and he went to Coach Rayburn and he said, "Coach, Volker's your man. The Scarlet course at Ohio State University is going to do me in. Volker can do well on that course. Volker is the person who should be on the team." Volker was the 4th starter, and as it turned out, he was the low scorer. On a very cold and windy day, it was described, shot a 162, which was the lowest score for Fairmont's team, and Fairmont won its first state golf championship that year.
Never heard that story from Mike.
I'd never heard that story from Mike either. I'd never really talked golf with Mike, but I'd never heard that story. But it's typical Mike. Mike would have recognized that Volker was the man who was going to maybe carry the day for the Dragons.
Right.
Yeah. And they did, and it was great. The next year, they came close. They won the districts again, went to the state tournament, and they finished second by just 2 strokes. Wow. But Volker was the low scorer. He was the low scorer in the district tournament. He was the low scorer at the state tournament. And they almost won a second consecutive state championship. The next year, 1963, they didn't win the Miami Valley League, and I forget who won it. It was either Greenville or Troy. There were a lot of powerhouses in the Miami Valley League in the golf world in those days. But they came and won the district tournament, got to go back to the state. And Volker ended up shooting a 151, wow. 11 strokes better than his 1961 performance in the state tournament. He was 7 strokes better than anybody else on his team. He was 9 strokes better than the first place golfer on the second place team.
Wow.
So he had a really fabulous round. And the Dragons, I keep wanting to say the Firebirds, but the Dragons won their second championship in 3 years.
Amazing.
And it was an amazing story. Yeah. I didn't hear if he got to present the state championship trophy
that second time.
for that second time. Yeah.
Did Volker play collegiate ball? I know he went on the European tour, but did he play collegiate golf?
Well, he had some Ohio State connections. And the coach at Ohio State at that time was a man by the name of Bob Kepler. And you may remember that Bob Kepler is a member of our Fairmont Athletic Hall of Fame, graduated from Fairmont in 1927, coached for I think 27 years at Ohio State and was still coaching. He was about at the end of his career at Ohio State, had coached Jack Nicklaus. And there's some interesting stories about that fine relationship between those two, but we don't have time to tell all of those. As I can tell it, Volker played, I think, 1 year, maybe 2. But he was very honest in an interview he had with some people. He said, golf was a lot more important than the books for me at Ohio State. And he decided he was going to try to go the pro route. So he came back to the Dayton area, served as a pro at, I think, Brown Run, a couple other courses around town, ended up in Ypsilanti, Michigan as a golf pro. And then from there, he decided he wanted to try to play on the European tour. And he went overseas. Again, he describes his golf career. He said, I was a pretty good Monday qualifier, but not necessarily very good on the other 4 days of the tournament. His record shows he was in about 5 tournaments. He won a few Euros, was never a great success, but he finally found his niche as a teaching pro in Switzerland. And he was wonderful. He helped design golf courses. He was the president of the Swiss PGA. Had a fantastic career as a teaching pro. Yeah.
You mentioned Bob Logan as one of his teammates.
Yes.
Who were the other teammates on that?
Well, on the first team, I can tell you there was a man by the name of Bill Reinecke, Danny Robinson, who was also a sophomore and was also on the senior team, on the 63 team, and the fourth one I'm forgetting. Bob Logan was there, and Volker, so there were 4 of them, yeah. And just, Fairmont was blessed with a plethora of fine golfers. Their dads all played golf at community and at NCR and country clubs around, and these were kids that grew up playing golf and shooting well.
Now, you said Volker's parents worked at NCR.
Yes.
Did
well,
either one of them golf?
I haven't been able to find that out. Okay. I'm assuming that maybe they did, but they made it possible for Volker to be around golfing personalities. Yeah.
Did he come back into the area very much after he left?
Did not come back here as far as I know, but he did have some interesting connections with the United States. I think before we talk about those connections, I just want to remind folks that the 3-year record that Volker's teams had, he was 41 and 5 dual meet losses and only 2 ties. 41 wins, 5 and 2 They won 2 league championships, 3 district championships, 2 state championships, and a second place finish in those 3 years.
Not a bad record.
Not
a bad record
not a
at all.
bad record. So a few weeks ago, I'd just about given up finding out too much information about Volker because he passed away in Switzerland in 2013. And there were some obituaries, but nothing about his Fairmont career or things here in the States. But there was one article that had been written about him by a man by the name of Charlie Epps. And Charlie is known as the golf doctor, and he has a show. I think it's still showing on ESPN, on the Golf Channel or one of those places. And he analyzes your swing and gives you tips how to get out of the sand trap and all of those kinds of things. Well, he was at St. Andrews at the British Open when Volker was there recruiting folks for a charity golf tournament in Switzerland. And he went up to Charlie and said, "I'd like to invite you to my charity golf tournament." And he explained what it was for. And Charlie said, "Sure, I'll be glad to come." And that was the beginning of a long and very enduring friendship between the two of them. Charlie eventually invited Volker to come to Houston, where he was a golf pro at the home course of George H.W. Bush and his wife Barbara. And Charlie was actually their personal golf coach. And my guess is that Volker probably had some time with the Bushes too.
Had a chance to meet those, absolutely.
Probably played a few rounds with the Bushes as well.
Wow.
But eventually, Volker was invited to teach in Charlie's schools, and he was very successful at that. Volker also ended up teaching at the Nicholas Flick courses in Florida.
I'll be
So
darned.
he spent a lot of time back in the United States, but not necessarily back here in Ohio.
Okay,
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
Well, Roger, I appreciate the time you've given. This has been very insightful. I hope the people who watch this will have a greater appreciation for what an outstanding golfer Volker was and understand why he was an obvious choice to be in the Athletic Hall of Fame.
One really important thing that Charlie mentioned to me, Volker loved golf, but even more, he loved helping other people love golf and teaching them so that they can enjoy the game.
That's wonderful.
Special person.
Yep.
My honor to talk about Volker,
Thank you.
and a wonderful athlete, certainly deserving of the honor.
I agree. Thank you, Roger.
Thank you.